Hi, I'm Ashley Cooley, a birth, baby, and sleep specialist and mom of 3. There's so much information out there, right? This show is dedicated to helping you clear out the noise so you can figure out what will work best for your baby and your family. If you're looking to learn more about your baby, gain more confidence in your parenting, and get as much sleep as you can through it all, you've come to the right place. Bringing up baby is about to get a little easier. Hey everybody, so we have our first male guest on today. My husband, the father of my children, my delivery room buddy, Tom Cooley, has finally agreed to have a chat with me about, not that we don't chat about things, but particularly for this podcast, because I thought it was about time that we get at least one guy's perspective on this whole birth and babies thing. We don't often get their perspective, and, as we might assume, it's very different from their perspective. So I wanted to ask him a few questions around what it was like to be in the delivery room, what it was like to be a support person for a loved one going through this experience. And of course, he's going through it as well. And just what it is like to have that newborn home. And now you're a family of more than just the two of you, and what that was all like for him. So here's what he had to say.
It was scary. That was my main feeling at the time. I was scared because I didn't know how I was going to keep that little thing alive. I knew that there was a lot of pressure becoming a parent, and that's what I was thinking about. That and trying to help you get through your first labor as well.
Right. So if we take it back to me being in labor with Stella, I remember it very clearly.
I don't have such clear memories of it.
I can remember getting up early in the morning and saying, I think I feel contractions, and you got excited, but I made you go to work because I didn't want you staring at me all day and thinking about how I'm doing. So then when I called you around lunchtime to say that you could come home because I was in labor and it was all going to be happening, talk me through from there on for you.
I do remember getting that phone call and being very excited, but also thinking, oh shit, it's happening.
What's about to go down?
Yeah. My life is about to change permanently.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Okay. My perspective of what you were doing at the time, I can remember being in the car on the way to the hospital. I remember being at the hospital, and I remember just waiting to get into the labor and delivery room, and all that time, you're there sitting and hanging out while I'm still contracting and going through it. And we had been to prenatal classes.
Yes.
But they weren't very thorough in terms of we still didn't know what to do.
Yeah, no.
in that moment. I didn't know what to do, and you didn't know how to help me.
Yes.
Remember,
I really didn't know
You remember
anything.
that much. So then I can remember getting into the labor and delivery room, getting the Johnny shirts on and all that, and then starting to feel like, should I get an epidural or not? And again, you didn't know how to support me through that. Remember we called Sharon, our friend Sharon, who's a labor and delivery nurse, and we were getting her to talk to us about it.
And we talked to her about the nurse that was with us. And
Yeah.
all that. Yes, I remember that, yeah.
But what I remember specifically on your end for Stella's birth and Frankie's, the first two, where we didn't know what we were doing. Had a little bit of an idea the second time, but not quite enough still.
Sure.
But from my perspective, you were trying your best to help me and support me, but I wasn't having it because you didn't know what you were doing. And if you didn't know what you were doing, I didn't want you anywhere near me.
Oh, I very distinctly remember being told, get the hell away from me, or something to that effect. Don't touch me.
Choice word. I remember, don't touch me. I remember saying it.
Yeah, don't touch me. And probably don't talk to me. I think I probably heard as well.
And because you were being supportive, and you would come and like touch my shoulder or touch my back or like let me know that you're there and you're there with me and everything's okay. But that gentle touch when I was having a contraction, I just wanted to slap you. Like, what are you trying to do to me? I talk a lot about this in prenatal class actually because
About
like
me,
not
me being
yes,
terrible
of course,
support.
that wasn't terrible support. You were
Well,
doing what you thought you needed to do and
did
what
my
you
best. It
what you
wasn't the right
knew
thing, but-
how to do. Because
Yeah.
like if I was upset about something on any given day, that's how you would come in and approach me and
Sure.
like provide support. What do you need? But I didn't know what I needed, so I couldn't tell you. I wasn't in a position to tell you. You were supposed to know, and you didn't. So I said, back off.
I
Okay.
don't know how I'm supposed to know, but
So I was clearly not looking at you or thinking about you during those moments when I was like, we're getting ready to push and all of that stuff.
you were in your
But
zone.
so I just imagine you sitting behind me in a chair, twiddling your thumbs and just like, what? Are you like freaking out? Are you just like, okay, I'll just sit here until she says something?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely remember sitting there and thinking, okay, well, I'm not doing the right things, so I'm just going to stay out of the way and
Until
do what
you're
I
called.
can, do what I can when I need it.
Until
Yeah.
you're called upon.
Yes.
Right. What about going into labor and delivery, even the first time? Did you think that you would want to see the action? Like, were you thinking up until then, were you thinking, I'm going to hang out by Ashley's head because I don't want to know what's going, because I hear that from a lot of partners. They don't even want to go down there. We don't want to see it. We're going to stay standing up here. But I feel like a lot of people probably change their minds in the moment.
100%. That's what happened to me.
You did.
100%.
Yeah, I know you did.
I leading up to it, all I thought was, well, I'm not going to watch because it's going to change the way I feel about Ashley or whatever. And then when the time came, I was just too curious and I had to look, and it didn't change anything about how I feel. If anything, it made me more amazed at what was happening. And just, it was, that specific moment was like a real, like, oh shit, this is real. I'm actually a dad, or going to be a dad in the next few minutes. Oh my God. And
But you're seeing your kids come into the world.
Yes,
and
exactly. And
it's more about that.
yes,
Right?
yes, absolutely. And I not everybody feels this way, but I've spent most of my life feeling like I wanted to be a dad. And that specific moment, the crowning, is something that will stick with me because it's a beautiful thing, and it was not scary at all in the moment. In fact, it was fascinating, and I was kind of like, oh my God, this is amazing. While you were screaming your head off.
But I remember our doctor saying at an appointment afterwards, like, you should have seen your husband's face. Like,
In what way? Is it positive?
Because you're just like in shock and awe, and just like I've told you
I don't
this all
think I
the
would have been pale or or
No,
anything like that.
no,
like
but-
I think of, you remember the movie Blow, and obviously he's in a different state.
He's checked out.
Yeah, he's in a
don't
different state.
compare yourself to that. That's terrible.
I was not that. is
You
my
were
point.
not that, but
No.
you were in that amazement zone. But like, and I've told you this before, you show everything on your face. So when the doctor said that, I'm like, no, but I can imagine, because you're just like, probably as you described, you just thought it was amazing. Too bad this is not a visual
facial
podcast.
expressions don't work
This
very
doesn't
well
work.
on
No.
podcasts.
Okay. So not everybody has that same feeling, of course, when it comes to actually seeing all that's happening. But
Sure.
I do think that there are people out there like you that maybe plan not to, or feel like, oh, that's probably not something I need to do or want to do. But in the moment, you're living it, and you're like, whoa, this is happening.
It's real, and it's something that literally every single person has gone through from the perspective of the baby.
Yeah.
There's-
Either vaginally or
Sure,
C-section. We
yeah,
know
of
this.
course,
But yes,
yes.
I get it. Okay.
I was speaking to somebody the other day who's going to be a dad soon, and he said the same thing, that he didn't want to be down there. And I tried to encourage him to say, that's fine, you're welcome to that opinion, but I think you will feel differently in the moment.
Be open to it.
Yes, because it is your body. That is yourself. That's the next generation. You're watching that happen. And that's something that you're going to love for the rest of your life. And you get to watch it be created. It's incredible. It's incredible.
Okay, now I want to hear, and this is more of a recent experience, so perhaps your memory will be a little bit better for this.
It was traumatizing.
You tried to forget as much as possible.
No, the first two, the first one was just a whirlwind, even though it took a long time and there was a lot of delays in the middle. It all, it happened over the course of 12 hours or something like that. Felt like
It was longer than that. Well, I'm glad it felt like that to you. No, but yes, by the time we got to the hospital until the time Stella was born was about 10 hours.
right. So I'm thinking from
Which
the
is
time I
pretty
get the
long
phone call
there.
at work, right?
Yes.
From
Yeah.
the time I get the phone call at work to the time that Stella was born, it was, let's say 13 or 14 hours or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have a lot of memory of that time. I don't think I ate anything. I don't think I was not in regular life mode. I was in a completely different, let's get this done. I'm in this zone now.
Mm-hmm.
And after coming out of that, my memories aren't very clear. I have a lot of feelings,
Mm-hmm.
I feel.
You remember how you felt about
Yeah,
it.
I remember feeling a little bit, certainly scared and.
Because now you got to keep the baby alive.
Well, yeah, nervous, scared for you. I was scared for your experience because I knew this was a big moment for you too, and there's nothing I could do to make it better, but I was hoping that it would be good. I found out later that there were things I could do to make it better, but I didn't know what they were.
The main point is that for Stella and Frankie's births, where those were 8 and 10 years ago, we had prenatal classes, but we were not shown what to do. You weren't shown how you could be supportive. I wasn't shown how I could help my labor progress or stay comfortable. So it just felt like it was all in the hands of the hospital and staff. And neither one of us knew the next steps. And I was waiting for them to tell me, or just we'll figure it out as we go. And you didn't know how to support me, so I didn't want you anywhere near me because I only wanted support.
You only wanted me to do exactly the right things, which I didn't know how to do.
Right.
Yeah.
So with Mabel, I had been teaching prenatal classes myself and became a certified childbirth educator, and actually had been showing people for at least 3 years how to stay comfortable and help labors progress and how partners can get involved. So I was excited to actually get you involved. I remember coming home from class one day and giving you some handouts, the handouts that I give out in class, and saying that
Study this.
yeah. You got the easy way out with the first two. You got to and I said easy way out. It didn't feel easy for you because, like you just said, it was nerve-wracking and all that stuff. But now I was like, you're getting put to work. There's no sitting and watching for this labor. There's no waiting to see what happens. We're going to do stuff.
We practiced. We had a plan.
Yes, that's the other part.
Yes.
We made sure that we practiced because I didn't want to have to be teaching you in the moment or telling you what to do, because clearly at least I knew what to do now, but I was going to prepare you and share that with you beforehand. So when we were in labor with Mabel and we get to the hospital, I've shared this in an episode where I talk about Mabel's birth story, that like I didn't lay in the bed when I first got there like I did with the other two, because I'm like, I'm going to be moving and we're going to do stuff. We had the sheet. We were doing the double hip squeeze. We had a TENS machine.
It was a very different experience.
Very different experience, and it was very active, and you actually knew what to do during. Anyway, why don't you say that from your perspective, what it was like, that labor, when you actually had some stuff to do and you felt like, maybe you didn't, but I think you felt like you were helping.
Yes. I know I was helping. I because of the planning and the practicing, I had confidence in what I needed to do and did it. And when you called for the TENS machine, I brought the TENS machine, and I knew where to put it, and we knew what to do. And that was a totally different experience. Still nerve-wracking because it's a big moment in your life, and third kid, like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? But it was it was a lot. I have a lot clearer memories of that, maybe because it was more recent, but also because I think I was in a much clearer headspace and knew what I needed to do to help you get through that experience.
It helped you to have a job to do.
Yeah, and it gave me it gave me purpose in the moment, but it also allowed me to be involved and feel like I was part of the experience in more ways than I was the first time, first two times.
Okay, so outside of labor and delivery, if we just talk about newborns and babies, you've said it a couple times how scared you were to just have to keep these little things alive.
Well, Stella's birthday was a few days ago, and I spent a lot of time on that day. Actually, it was probably 10 years ago today that we brought Stella home
Yes,
from the hospital.
It was.
And I have very clear memories of sitting in our house on the couch with the baby on either your chest or my chest and thinking like, what now?
That's exactly what I was thinking too. I saw a picture of a memory that popped up today too, because that's how I knew it was today, the first day we came home. And I remember thinking that exact moment, like, well, now what? Like, what are we supposed to do?
Yeah.
Are we supposed to be doing something right now?
Yeah.
Or like, what's gonna come down the pike?
You spend 2 days in the hospital with everything planned and everything, you being told what to do and here are your meals and la 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 la. And then you get home, and it's like
you forgot about how to do anything.
Now we're by ourselves, and we have this little life that we have to keep going.
And I was not good at breastfeeding.
That's
in the
right.
beginning.
That was a major.
Do you remember that?
Yes, I absolutely do. That was a major stress, and it was very difficult for me to try and support you through that because there's literally, even with training, unless I'm a breastfeeding consultant, there's nothing I can do to help you except to try and be encouraging. And that's what I did. But that was a difficult time for sure. You were crying a lot because you were very worried about Stella's health.
The first night at home, when you don't have a nurse that you can just call in the room, and nursing was kind of going okay at the hospital, but not great. But it definitely wasn't great the first night. And it was very stressful. And luckily we did get help after that from a lactation consultant.
I was going to say, yeah.
Which made a huge difference. So in general, as one dad, as one man in this situation, because we know everybody's different, but what would you say
What's
a
the best
dad
advice I should
going
give?
into this situation? What would you say to them? Other than one you've already shared, which is keep your mind open about about watching what's happening in front of you, because it's incredible. That's a cool one. Do you have any other things to
I would
do
say
or not do?
prepare yourself in the way of maybe get some handouts and study them because the experience, after knowing what to do, the experience was a lot better. It was a lot less stressful. When you're doing things, you're not sitting there just worrying, thinking. You're actually actively participating. It's a lot better.
What does actively participating look like once the baby's already out?
Staying out of the way of the doctors while they do their stitching and their all the other things.
Sure. No. But I mean, okay, we're at home now.
Oh, okay.
You're home with the baby. We don't want you to just stay out of the way in that case.
Sorry, I thought you meant directly.
No, I understand.
The
No, in terms of how did you find you were best or least supportive when we are home with the baby? I was breastfeeding, so a lot of that was on me for sure. But what were some ways that you thought of or made sure of you were being supportive in other ways?
I make the meals and take the baby when mom doesn't want the baby anymore and go do something with the baby, whether it's just walk around or dance or just cuddle on the couch and watch television. At that age, babies are easy. They just lie on your chest. They might cry a bunch, but they can't get away from you, and they're very easy to contain. And get to know them. This is a person that you're going to know their entire lives, presumably, and
their personalities show.
Yeah,
pretty early.
Yeah,
on.
Their personalities show, but also let them get to know you too, because I want that infant to know that I'm the other parent.
That's
His mom is always number one,
Yeah.
and that's fine. But I'm number two.
There's somebody else here,
I'm
too.
always going to be number
Yes.
two.
Yes. I think you always knew that from early on, and probably as a breastfeeding mom, that it's not always the mom that's the primary parent, but in our culture and as breastfeeding people, and just where we're typically the ones home with the babies more, that we tend to be the primary parent, and there is one parent that the baby has that secure attachment with primarily, but that doesn't mean they can't have secure attachment with other people. And so that was for you, is just making sure that that baby knew, those babies, our babies, knew that that was majorly you and it wasn't going to be anybody else. So
Yeah.
you're being very involved whenever you could. The only other thing I would say to that, what you had mentioned, like take the baby whenever mom doesn't want the baby. Sometimes the mom wants the baby all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, and I think I was probably in that, I probably almost never wanted to give you the baby, except that I had to because I needed to go to the bathroom or something. Like, I can remember wanting to always be the one to hold the baby.
With
And
Stella
had-
or with all of them?
Probably mostly with Stella, but letting other people hold her when she was still so young and fresh, like I was just waiting till that time was where they gave her back, or I was like, I need to have her.
Sure.
And it was hard for me to say that out loud. I'd like to have the baby back. Or
I remember
if
that.
I didn't
Now that
have,
you mention that,
if
I
I
do
didn't have a
remember that.
reason, if I didn't have a reason, like if she wasn't crying or if then I felt like I couldn't. And I found that very interesting. So something that I like to tell parents, dads to be partners of somebody who's having a baby is that, not that you're going to go and take the baby
No.
from them, but helping them be used to, again, being their own person. Like if you had come and said, and maybe you probably did this because again, it was 10 years ago.
I do remember this whole situation now that you mention it.
But
yeah.
just like having a hard time as the mom, that was my right, and I wanted to be with the baby. But I think there's value in letting other people hold the baby. And there's
Absolutely.
value in letting other people do that. So
But there's also like the husband or the partner could also jump in and say, "Oh, I'm going to take her back to mom now," and so that you wouldn't have to, or whatever. And I know that happened. I know that happened. I do remember having those moments for the first couple of months, even. You know, it was when she was so fresh
and particularly, like I could maybe say that to you, but I couldn't say it to other
Oh,
people.
right, of course.
I couldn't say it
That's why.
to anybody else.
That's
So,
why I could jump in
Right.
as the intermediary between,
Right.
so that you wouldn't have to be
Right.
the desperate mom that needs her baby back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, is there anything else you'd like to share? You're an experienced dad now. You've been in the labor and delivery room 3 times.
Yes.
Very different experiences,
Yes.
just about every time, but particularly the last one because we knew a lot more and did
We were well
things
prepared.
very well prepared. So, in a nutshell,
In a nutshell.
what's it like to be a dad?
It's the greatest thing in the world. Most times. Your kids will make you want to thrash at the world, but they also warm every part of your body, and just everything they do makes me so proud. I see them learning how to read and learning math, and all these things are just, they seem so, everybody's going to do it eventually. But when it's your own kid, it's,
Nobody does it like them.
well, yeah. It's like, you know, I had a pretty big part in them doing that. And that's cool. That makes me proud of myself. You know?
Totally.
Proud of myself, proud of them mostly. But my pride in them does give me pride in myself as well.
If you're looking for more information or support along your parenting journey, check out birthbabysleep.ca. That's where you're going to find prenatal classes, postpartum and new baby resources, and sleep support during the childhood years. You can now join our Bringing Up Baby community membership as well, which has tons of additional benefits to helping you through all kinds of sleep challenges and transitions, navigating the transition to solid foods, and even your transition through early parenthood. If you have any questions, just send them my way. Lastly, but certainly not least, if you got something out of this episode or our show in general, leaving a rating or a quick review goes a really long way to helping others find us. So please consider leaving one. That's all for now. I'm Ashley Cooley, and we'll see you back here next time.